So first off, thank you all for joining us. You guys have all been invited by the NIH to participate at our RESI conference. And today we're going to do a fundraising boot camp, which is going to be led up by LSN CEO Dennis Ford. And then we're going to do a demo of the partnering tutorial and also of our investor database, just to give you guys a good understanding of LSN and who we are and what we do. Feel free to message us with any questions. I can also unmute, allow everyone to talk to make it a little bit more interactive. So I'll probably just go through and click all of that there. So with that, Dennis, I'll start sharing my screen and then you can take it away.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Dennis Ford, and I'm the founder of Life Science Nation. And we're going to do a little fundraising boot camp today. And so should be a good and informative session to all of you who are out there thinking about raising money and figuring out how to do a global fundraise. And Greg will be doing a demo of our product, and Ashley will be talking about some other things, some other programs that we have with the NIH. So should be good. Let's go to the first slide and see if we can get this thing going. Life Science Nation, for you all that don't know too much about us, we curate two life science databases. One we call the business development database, which has about 60,000 companies across the silos of drugs, devices, diagnostics, and digital health. And we wind up selling that database to CROs, service providers, legal firms, pharmaceutical companies who are trying to source early stage assets. Either for pipeline or to sell their, for pharmaceutical pipeline or to sell their services to. And then we have another database that we've been curating for about 10 years, which is the investor database. So we have 10 categories of investors, and it's really important to understand that, different investors have different profiles, and they have these investment mandates, which they determine who are a fit for their mandates and who gets their money. And so we have a team of staff that, investor research staff, that actually does a one-on-one interview with all of the investors. And then we write that interview up into a profile, and then we put it in a database. And Greg will be showing you folks a little bit later what those profiles look like. But the good news is that you can go in and say, okay, my company is at this stage of development, and this is my product or my service. And in a couple of clicks, you can get a list of all of the investors globally that are a fit for your stage of development and your product set. And so if you're trying to do a fundraise, it's really great to get what we call a global target list of investors that are a fit for your stage of development in your product, because those are the investors that you really want to put on your radar screen. And they all show up at our RESI conferences. So you can see on the other part of the slide, we have these partnering events, these dedicated investor events, and RESI stands for Redefining Early Stage Investments. So we have one RESI conference that we put on the first 3 days of our week-long event. And then we have two specialized conferences, which one is the RESI AI event, and the other is RESI Longevity. And so the next one coming up is June 8th through 10th. And I'm sure that you guys are all signed up via the NIH and the great work that Ashley's been doing. And so the last thing we do is we have a bunch of classes, webinars, and other services that we provide. So if you're going to a RESI conference, we really implore you to get your branding and messaging straight. And we have a process that we've created that allows you to do better as far as getting meetings. And we'll talk about that today as well. So next slide, please. Greg, are you running my slides?
No, it's Ashley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was me.
Well, thanks, Ashley. So here, this is just a list of the investors we have signed up, and I'm sure it's just a partial list. I think we have around 300 investors from around the world that are coming to our June conference. And so, you in the audience, your goal is to figure out how to get into our partnering system, and then how to do a search for investors, and then find the investors that are a fit for you, and then start this process, which is really all about how your tactical strategy is for reaching out to the investors, and we'll go through that later today. But follow-up is really important, and a lot of folks they'll go to a partnering event, and they'll jump onto the partnering system, and they'll see a bunch of investors, and they'll send out an email, and they won't really think a lot about what are they saying in the introductory email, and they might get 3, 5, 7 meetings. But we at Life Science Nation have really developed this program where we want to educate you on how to do the introduction right, and then how to do a follow-up right, which might feature your chief scientist or your team, and then a little bit deeper about your product, and then maybe a tear sheet at the end that summarizes it. So instead of doing one intro, we encourage that you do 4 reach out and follow up, and instead of getting 3 to 7 meetings, you might get 15 to 20. And when you look at the RESI conferences that we have every 2 months around the world, you multiply that out, and you can hopefully talk to about 100 investors in a year, which would give you a really good understanding of how the investor and partner market is reacting to you and your message. Next slide, please. So, we know that everybody out there is raising money, and, one of the conundrums of raising money is when you're going to these partnering events, somebody says, are you raising money? And the answer is yes. But a lot of times people aren't really sure, like, I think I'm raising money, I might be raising money, I'm trying to figure out if I'm raising money. And those are all valid points. But when you go to a dedicated investor conference, and you're going to meet people who are looking to invest according to their investor mandates, you want to have a really good idea that, yes, I am raising money, and this is how much I'm raising, and here's where we're breaking down our plan, and this is where our milestones are, and all that stuff. So the answer is, if you're raising capital, yes. And the question that we get a lot from people that are participating is, how long does it typically take? And so there are people that thinks it can take 3 to 6 months, which it could, and you'd be extremely lucky if that was the case. But typically we like to say plan 9 or 18 months, and it takes that long to go get yourself socialized into the marketplace, meet a bunch of folks who are a fit for your stage of development in your product, and then start to go through a process with them, which weeks turn into months, and months turn into more months, and then pretty soon you've been in dialogue for 6 or 9 or even longer. So it can take 9 to 18 months. And then when we talk about, do you know how much it costs? Well, we're big fans of saying, you really got to get your branding and messaging down, and you have to have your data sheet and your executive summary and your PowerPoint and your video and your web. And then when you try and figure out, we'll all be traveling pretty soon again, and when you start going to these conferences all over, you have to pay the hotel and restaurant and travel fees, and then you got to buy the tickets to the conference. And then if you're going to a conference, you probably want to turn it into a 1-week road show where you're hitting all the investors in that particular region. And then, once again, it's good to have a database of the investors, which we curate and which we sell to fundraising CEOs, and then all the other things. So the good news and the bad news is it takes, around 60 to 90,000 plus investment just to go out and get yourself prepared and do a roadshow or a global roadshow for a year. And you can do it cheaper and you can cut corners, but those are some of the things that we have to think about when we're getting ready for a global roadshow. Next slide, please. So, today, when we think about the investor landscape, if you get your tech transfer license and you go get some government funding or endowment or foundation funding that is non-dilutive cash, and you start to get your product or service up and running and under development, and then pretty soon you go through your phase 1 and phase 2 money, and then when you're ready to go get your first initial angel or seed round, we typically see that between 250K and 2 million. And the people that are in that particular realm are the regional angels or the angel groups that have formed syndicates that are either national or international, and then the family offices and some of the other early stage investment firms. And then when you start to get into your Series A, we kind of classify that as 2 million to 10 million, and then your Series B, 10 million to 50. So you're seeing angels, friends, family, initial putting a seed stage round in. And then when you start to get into your other groups like venture capital, venture philanthropy, patient groups, private equity, hedge funds, corporate venture, there's basically 10 categories, and they all fall under the subject of investor, but each one of them has their own separate kind of profile and the way that they do business and where they fit in the ecosystem of investment and partnering. So it's really good to understand like what all of the 10 groups look like and how they all go about doing their due diligence and interacting with early stage companies that they're going to be working with. But you have to be aware that when you are meeting, one moment you might be meeting with a family office who might have a reason to be talking to you because they have a family member that's suffering from a disease or it's in their family and they want to try and do something with it, which is different than an angel group, which is looking to, spread some money around across, many companies, which is different than a late stage VC, which is going to try and help you get from phase 2B to commercialization. So understanding the dynamics of each of the profiles of each of the investors is really important. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we'll be talking about today is just trying to defrock some of the myths that are out there. And a lot of folks are, the first one we see here is that funding choices are limited to SBIR grants, friends, family, angels, and VCs and strategics. And that's about half of them. And the other half are, different types of categories that we went over. So we're a big fan of this concept called a global target list. And so what that is, when you look into a particular region, you have X amount of investors there. And it's easy if you're in a region to just stay inside the West Coast or the East Coast or the US or whatever, but and it's a lot harder to go, into North America and into Europe and into the Pacific Rim. But when you, one of the things that you have to be aware of is that raising money is really a numbers game. And when you get into the sales world and your BD world and you're leaving the science world and you're starting to raise money, you really have to start to put on the BD sales hat, and you're kind of in that arena. And what rules that arena really is the fact that raising money is a numbers game, and you got to get as many targets on your global target list as possible, and you want them to be a fit for you. And so you'll be able to go into into our database, and probably everybody, somewhere with a couple of clicks, you could probably figure out what your global target list looks like. which will probably be 300, 400, 500 investors globally. And then your job is to get all of those folks on your radar screen and then figure out a way to reach out to them and vet them to see if there's any way you can reach out, meet them, create a dialogue, and then that dialogue can turn into a relationship, which eventually can turn into an allocation. So, part of the thing is first understanding that the breadth of investors out there that do early stage is large. There's probably about 5,000 investors that we keep in our front end of our database, and another 5,000 in the back end. And then going from a regional strategy, which is fine, but making sure that you also have a global strategy is super important as well, because at the end of the day, it's a numbers game. Next slide, please. So we talked a little bit about timing. It is, a lot of people think it's 6 to 9 months, but really, if you're going to be planning, you really need to think about 9 to 18. And we have a lot of good friends that we've been working with over the years. And, 18 to 24 months ago, we were watching him go to RESI conferences and find partners and trying to get their funding closed. And now, after the 18 to 24 months, they're starting to have a lot more data. They're getting their animal data straight. They're hitting milestones, but it's not a quick process. They go out and they get themselves socialized into the marketplace, and then they ask the potential partners, what does it take to get investment? And the partners might come back and say, well, we need more data, or we need to see better milestones, or more milestones being met. So getting out there early, meeting all of the people that you have to meet to get on your list, and then reporting into them on a regular basis over 6, 9, or 12 months is really what the process really looks like, and really how you should start to plan it. And it's not like you're going to go there and all of a sudden meet somebody and then in a quick amount of time get some money thrown your way. However, it does happen, but for the most part, it's a little bit of an arduous process. During my discussion today, if anybody has a question, just feel free to put it into the chat, and Ashley or Greg can interrupt me, and we can take a look at the question and we can answer it real time. So we've gone over the fact that it's super necessary to understand each category investor because they all have their own significant profile. Next slide, please. One of the things that happens a lot is, there's two sides of the table. You're on one side of the table and you're thinking that you know what you want to tell to the person on the other side of the table, who's the investor or collaboration or development partner. And it's really important to make sure that each group is in context with each other. And so a lot of the times when I'm talking with the scientist entrepreneurs and the fundraising CEOs, they really want to talk about their technology and lead with their technology. And they think that that's the only thing that really matters to investors. And so we have to spend a lot of time kind of unwinding that concept, because the science and technology is great. And, if you have something iterative or breakthrough or that's going to, change the landscape, it's really super important because it's going to change the market. But it's also very important to understand that if the investors on the other side of the table, they're evaluating you, the CEO, as to, they want to know how you deal with risk, how you mitigate risk, what your story is, how you got there, just trying to get an idea if they're going to give you money and they're going to wind up in a relationship with you that could be 3 to 5 years or 5 to 7 years or more. How are you going to be to work with and fit into their ecosystem and their infrastructure? And so they're trying to read you. Yes, they want to hear about the technology, and yes, they want to hear about the product, but they also want to understand you and how you do things and how you got there to be running the business and starting the new entity, and then also how your team works together. And they don't want to hear just the good news. They want to hear about all the challenges that you've run into, and things that you've met, and how you pivoted from one thing to another if you had to. And so a lot of folks think that you're going to go there and jump in front of somebody that's a fit for you because we matched you with our technology, and then you're just going to put up your PowerPoint and you're just going to rifle through the slides. And we really, in the slides, are very technical with all of the different metrics that you've developed to show where you're at. And so yes, that's important, but one of the things that we always advise folks is, when you're going to a meeting with an investor, just have a conversation with them. They're going to be 30 minutes time slots when you go to our RESI conference. And so if you just go there with a bunch of slides and you put them up and you're just going rifling through 20 slides, and you don't have enough time at the end to really talk, and you think, oh, I'm just going to just really give them the dump on my technology and science, that's not really a good tactic. It's a better tactic to go there, spend the 30 minutes in conversation, and then have some key slides that can really show what some of the great things that are happening is, and then you can use that way. But a lot of time, I like to say, start a conversation. You have a bunch of your questions. When's the last time you did an investment? How much dry powder do you have left? What's the typical size? How many people do you do a year? Who are your KOLs? Who's on your advisory board? Just getting all the questions that you would like to ask a partner. How do they do their evaluation? What's the time frame? How long does due diligence take? So you're going into having a meeting with some investor or strategic partner, and it's not just you going in there with a slideshow and rifling through the slides. It's you going in there prepared with a couple of key slides, but also with a list of questions, and also with the idea that you want to go meet somebody and have a decent conversation so that you can learn about them and they can learn about you. There's another question here about it's always good to have many technologies and indications, which is something that comes up with platform technologies time and time again. And so we are in the golden age of life science, and the nexus of all the great tools and all the great data and all of the great improvements in drug development and medical device development and creating new tests and new digital health kind of applications. It's just, everything is just coming to the forefront. And so you get a lot of platforms out there that are saying, we have this platform technology and we want to sell it to a pharma. And having been doing this for over 10 years, a lot of the things that we see is, and we recommend, is if you have a platform technology, take the best application of that platform and go get that funded. Like we had a group in Cambridge that had some really great technology, and the first product that came out was an ALS product. And so when they came to us, they said, hey, we want to go and talk to a bunch of pharma and talk about our platform. And I said, you can do that, but if you're going to go sell a platform to a pharma, they're going to want to take the platform in-house, and they're going to shut the door behind them. And there's a lot of people in-house that are probably competing with you inside the pharma that you're not going to get a chance to talk to. And it's an elongated process. So I said, my recommendation is take your lead product, which was an ALS product, and lead with that and go to our conference and say, hey, how many ALS investors are there? How many neuro folks are there out there that are interested in this? And then we can go meet with them, and then they can see what our platform looks like, but they can evaluate the product that's furthest along. And so that went really good. They came and they got a first round seed, and then they just recently got a 40 million second round. So it's always thrilling to talk about, we have a new platform and it's going to create all of these technologies coming forth over the next 10 years. but it's a really hard, long sell. So if you can just get with the product that you have that has the most data, that's furthest along with some compelling information around that product, that's the one you want to get funded. And then if you get the next one going, now when you have two out there that's come, two or so products that's come out of your platform, now you have some leverage when you go to a farmer and you can say, you know, I'm really interested in moving this into the farmer category in finding a partner, but I've already got two products out into the market that are being developed, and I'm not going to, like, you know, let you take the product and shut the door. We're going to do we're going to put a corral around how long it's going to be to do the evaluation. Maybe it's 6 months, and we're going to, you know, map it out about, you know, when we're going to have meetings and how it's going to be done and when we're going to get answers. So, you know, that's just a typical conundrum when you're dealing with, you know, pharmaceutical companies and they're taking your platform in-house, but it really goes across the same with the drugs, devices, diagnostics, and digital health. If you think you've got a platform, lead with one product, get that funded, and prove out your platform rather than just trying to sell the platform. You need to be referred to by an investor in order to get a meeting. This is one of the questions that we run into a lot. And, you know, people say, we're being told that if we don't have somebody that can recommend us to a strategic partner that we're trying to get to, then we can't get to a meeting with them. And, you know, it's not true, because you can basically call anybody up that you want and try and get to them. What is true is that if you know somebody and they can refer you to somebody that's a fit for your stage of investment in product, and they know the person and they know you and they do an introduction, well, that's called a warm introduction, and it never gets any better than that. If you know somebody that can connect you with somebody, I just did it yesterday to a good friend of mine who said, I know you know this person, Dennis, could you figure out how to hook me up? And I found out what they were looking for. And so I said, yeah, here's his cell phone number. And then I texted the person and said, I just met this person. I think they want to talk to you. They're dealing with some folks in your organization, and I sent your cell phone number and I hope it's okay. And he said, thank you so much. And so that's a great warm introduction. But a lukewarm introduction is when you go into our partnering system and you go, show me all the investors that are a fit for my stage of development and my product. And then, you know, because you've read their mandate, their investment mandate, that you're a fit. And now you can go to those people and say, I've done my research, I've read your stuff, I feel that from what you've said, you're looking for this, and I have this. And so that fit is basically what we call a warm introduction as well. So you're not always going to get these hot introductions, but using fit as a warm introduction will get you in front of the people that you're trying to get to. So we can go to the next slide. The other one is people tend to want to inundate the investor. And, you know, one of the things that I'm always trying to talk about is just context. Like, you're in context, you're the CEO of the company, and you're really trying to make some movement and get in front of some of the right people. And that's your job. And then the investor has got to go vet all these other people, just like yourself. And so, you know, when you go to this conference, we'll probably have 300 or 400 investors, and we'll probably have 300 or 400 fundraising CEOs. Typically, it's almost like, you know, the same amount of both investors and fundraising CEOs, the same numbers. So being able to really net out who you are and what your value is like super important. And a lot of people just tend to say, I'll send them this 20-page PowerPoint, which we don't recommend doing. It's 10 to 12 pages. And we'll just keep on, getting them as much information. And if we send them as much information as we can, we'll be fine. Well, if it was just you going after 300 investors, it's fine. But it's 300 of you going after 300 investors, and all of a sudden, that's like a lot of information that's coming after a particular investor or strategic partner. So there's no way that they can vet all of that data that you're throwing at them. And so that's why, at my company, I wrote a book about the subject. And we really spend a lot of time with everybody, just really netting out, what's the 5 or 6 words that really describe what your product does. And then, just really working it. And so we spend a lot of time with the NIH scientists, entrepreneurs, and fundraising CEOs, where, we'll give them a course like this. And then we'll also invite them to sign up for a half-hour meeting with me, and I'll go look at all your stuff. And I'll say, I'm not really hearing what the core message is here. Like, just tell me the 5 or 6 words that really describe what you do. Because once we get that tagline down, that those 5, 6, 7 words that describe what your company does and what your value add is in your technology, once you really net it out, then you can turn into those words into your elevator pitch with the 5 or 6 sentences that really describe you. And then you can take those 2 items and you can move it over to your data sheet, which we'll be able to send you a format for a 1-page data sheet. Starts with your tagline, describe your company, goes into the 7 sentences that describes your elevator pitch. And then who's on your board of advisors and how much money have you raised, and all of the other stuff, but all on a neatly stacked 1-page data sheet. And then that turns into your executive summary, which is, we recommend that to be a 2-page document. And we really recommend that it's not like your resume, it's more like your story. And so a lot of the challenge for, scientist entrepreneurs are, how do I find my voice and how do I find my story? Because the investor on the other side of the table wants to be able to chat with you and quickly understand what's your story. And so we spend a lot of time getting the narrative of how did you and your team and your company and your technology, how did all of that come together? What were the circumstances and what happened there? And then once you get your story straight by starting with the quintessential couple of words that describe you, and then creating a thread that goes through your elevator pitch, your executive summary, and then the first part of your executive summary is just your bulletized story, the first 6 pages, and then the other 6 are a deeper dive into the technology. Now you have your 12-page PowerPoint, and then you can do that in your video, and then also put that message in your on your website. So this continuous thread of your story, from the smallest aspect of it that winds all the way through all of your branding and messaging collateral, makes it super cogent and super lucid and gives it flow and allows you to tell a story that if you have somebody for 30 seconds or 3 minutes or 30 minutes, as long as you have that story really well thought out in your head, you'll be able to really get that across, which is really what the investors and partners really want to hear. And so that's a lot of going from, just blitzing somebody with a lot of information to really thinking about what's the information I'm going to be sending everybody, and then getting it really crisp. And then the other thing we run into is the scientists are the rock stars and don't need the business or finance folks. And the story goes that if you have a team and you get in front of the investors, they're going to be looking at your team, and if you have holes in your team, they're going to want to fill it out. And it's not just about the rock star scientists, and it's super important, but it's also, you have to build a business. And so you have to have a team that's going to be able to fill all the silos of a business. And so showing the investor that you've thought about that and coming with a team or coming with people who will join your team, and showing that you've got an organized company and that that for the next 2 or 3 years, you'll be able to scale a company and get it launched. And then, getting a company launched is pretty much one type of players. And then scaling a company, once you get product and you're trying to get into the market, is, potentially a whole other set of players. But really being aware of, where you're at now and where you're going in the next 2 to 3 years, and then showing that you've thought a lot about it, instead of going, we just figured out something that no one else has done, and it's all about the science and we're the rock stars, and not thinking that anything else matters. Think one more slide there. So, we're talking a little bit about, the science is the hard part, and the business is the easy part. But, just basically every single part, every single silo in the business is a universe until itself. And yes, we have to create product, and yes, we have to get the money raised, and yes, we have to have the product development people, and we have to have the QA staff, and we have to have the clinical staff, testing staff. So all of those are universes which all are equal, and it's really important to not misunderstand that when people are looking at you to invest in and create a business around, that they're looking at a big picture, and they need to figure out all the great things that you're bringing to the table, but also all the things that you're not. And so that's why, creating a really honest, straightforward story that really captures all the positive things that's happening and also touches on some of the challenges can make for a really great, compelling meeting when you have a chance to get in front of the investors. So I think we're heading over to Greg at this point. Is that right, Greg?
Yes.
I think so.
Are we on?
You want to just mention the book?
Yes. So I'm going to be following up with everyone. Dennis mentioned his book that he has. He wrote a book on the subject of everything that he kind of talked about today. So I'll be sending that after the call. And now we want to go in and show you a quick demo. That's what Greg is going to go through next, of our investor database. And then after that, I'm going to do a partnering tutorial, because having a good understanding of like what we do, what we have, and then seeing the partnering platform, it just kind of, Dennis mentions context in his presentation, and having context around what we do. And then once you see it within the partnering platform, I think it'll connect some dots and be helpful. So with that, Greg, do you need me to...
Thank you all for that. And Greg will do a demo, but if anybody wants me to take a look at their branding and messaging, Ashley will be really happy to coordinate that.
Can you make me the host real quick, Ashley?
Yes.
You made Dennis.
And again, feel
host.
free to ask any questions or anything within the chat or the Q&A or raising your hands.
So is Greg the host?
No, you made Dennis the host.
Oh, sorry.
Do I have to do something again?
Yeah, just make Greg the host like you did.
You have to make me the host now, Dennis.
Okay, what do I do?
So go to participants.
Go to where?
Participants.
Okay. Yeah.
Panelists.
Yeah.
And then go to hover over Greg so it says more.
Yeah.
And then make host. Sorry.
We're real good at this, guys.
Usually I'm on my game, but today apparently.
Okay, thanks the host. Sorry, everybody.
Sorry.
We will manage though. So.
We only had a year of practice with this.
So, hello everybody. I want to just give you a quick tour of the investor database, because this is the tool that powers the RESI conference and that powers everything we do. And you'll understand how the partnering platform works a lot better at the RESI conference that you're attending when you see the database. And also the database is a tool that's available to companies like yours to really give you this incredible breadth of information about investors around the world who would be a fit for you. And Ashley's going to explain in a minute a mechanism through the NIH that will allow you to have access to this database. So just to start, I want you to see that it's really a global, truly a global database with many investors in the US, of course, but also many investors from around the world, from North America, Asia, the major European countries, etc. And as Dennis mentioned earlier, it's so important to be in the global fundraising environment and have access to investors from outside of your region. That's something we really believe, and we've seen so many deals that have helped companies move along because of that, because they were able to reach out to investors from all over. And then Dennis also mentioned in his presentation earlier that it's not just VCs and angel groups that you should be talking to. There are so many other types of investors, actually 10 categories of investors that are active in early stage and that you should be talking to. And you can see that our database is tracking all of these different types of investors: corporate VCs, foundations, family offices, big pharma, big medtech, VCs, private equity, etc. So what is important is to identify investors who are a fit for what you're doing, the type of product or technology you're developing, and the stage of development, and not so much where they happen to be located. You want to find ones who are a fit. So I was talking to one of the companies attending RESI just this morning, developing a diagnostic. And so this is just an example, a diagnostic technology for in vitro diagnostics, and then this particular one was for infectious diseases, which in this case was COVID. And the technology is in development, going into clinical stage, okay? And the company is based in the US. And if we did a broad search for this company, we get over 600 potential investors. And you'll be able to see here that these investors are really different types of investors and from all over the world. So you see there's a VC from Silicon Valley in California. There's a VC from China. There's a corporate VC in Germany, 3M. Another VC from China, which is linked to the WuXi company, CRO. There's an angel group, large pharma, Abbott, and then Abbott Ventures, the corporate VC wing. So the kind of information we track, and this will be, I think this will be, you'll see how useful this information is. We have a team, as Dennis mentioned, of investor analysts who are reaching out to these investors. Many of them participate in our RESI conferences. They come frequently, and we're continually updating this information and identifying new investors. So the kind of information that, that our investor analysts take, and you can see up here in the corner, in this case, it was my colleague Claire, who spoke to this investor. She gets some general information about the investor, but here in the mandate section, in the personal interview, that Claire or one of her colleagues has with the investors, she takes really key information about the allocation information from this company. So they typically invest in Series B or later, but they'll also consider Series A, seed to Series A. The other kind of information that's useful is to know that their check size is typically $2 to $5 million that they invest, not usually in equity. And then the geographical focus, they invest in the US, Europe, Brazil, Singapore, and China. So, that's really useful information to know if this investor is potentially a fit for your company. And in sectors and subsectors of interest, you get more detailed information about the types of technology that they're looking for. And you can see here One of the areas they're interested in is diagnostic devices, which is what this particular company, the one I spoke to this morning, is developing. And so this, when they read through this, they would think, yeah, this is a really good fit for me. So how do I get in touch with them? And as Dennis mentioned, if you have a warm, hot introduction referral from somebody that you know who knows you well, that's great. But what we curate in the database is this message from the investor, which is the investor telling you how to get in touch with them. And you can see here, there are 2 contact people, and you get their email and their information. And we say you should always reference LSN, because this turns it into a referral, a warm referral that will indicate to the investor that you have read through this information, you see that you are potentially a fit, and you're reaching out through the LSN database so they know where you're coming from. And this will help you get traction with those investors. So, and then, finally, there's a contact page. You can see there's a lot of contact information about other colleagues at this investment firm. And, this is the kind of information that we curate. So imagine having this kind of information for hundreds of investors who are potentially a fit for you. It's a really powerful tool. So I believe Ashley is going to tell you a bit about the TABA program that the NIH offers and how that ties into this database and also to the RESI conference. So I'm going to make
Perfect.
Ashley, I'll make you the host again.
Thank you. Perfect. Okay, so Dennis, thank you for doing, let me put my video on here. So thank you for doing the fundraising bootcamp. Greg, thank you for doing a demo of the investor database, super helpful. The last thing that I wanted to just talk about on the slide deck and kind of to what Greg had just mentioned. So because you guys are all supported by NIH, the NIH actually can approve technical and business assistance, aka TABA, which you may be familiar with. And it pretty much, you're able to get TABA funding that could help you with services like branding and messaging, like your marketing collateral, things that we definitely can help you with if you have, if you are interested. So we put together the programs that I have up on my screen for, if you're a phase 1 company, we have a package that's $5,000. And that would, one of the options is getting access to that investor database that Greg had just mentioned or did a demo of. The second one, we have a phase 2 awardees package that's $15,000 that is branding and messaging services. So Dennis talked a lot about what is actually needed. He does coaching for a lot of companies. We've helped companies with their branding and messaging, like getting their story straight, getting your tagline, your logo, your 10 to 12 page pitch deck, all of that information, and making it really flow well, your executive summary, all of those things, and that's included within that package. And this is something that, again, you can request. You can request through NIH, and then we provide the services. So if you have any questions on this, feel free to reach out to myself. I think everyone here has my email, or resi@lifesciencenation.com. And then I did put a link in here, the sbr.nih.gov link there, because they have like a bunch of information about this information. We just wanted to let you guys know that we definitely have services that were included in that. And because you guys are participating in RESI within the next couple of weeks, we just want you to know that the services are there and we provide them and we can help. And it's something that we definitely, as a company, that's just what we like to do.
Ashley,
yes.
So one of the things that's really cool about this, we've been working with the NIH for close to five or 6 years now, and they know that they need to provide these services to their grantees, that they will pay for them. And all you have to do is fill out the form and get approval, and they know that they need to help you with the marketing and business development stuff. And so this is a way that you can get it paid for by them. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I am going to stop the presentation now. Oh, hold on 1 second. Let me start sharing my screen again here. Okay. So now I want to really go into the partnering platform, because every one of you should have received a email on Monday mid-morning from Meeting-Mojo, and just confirm that you guys can see I have the RESI screen up right now. Can you guys see that?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you, Greg. And the first thing I wanted to show first is this is what the email looks like. So it came from Meeting-Mojo. So if anyone check your spam or junk folders if this doesn't look familiar, this will include your partnering login credentials. And honestly, it's just this link right here. Once you click on this link, it will automatically log you into the partnering platform, and it remembers your device. So whatever computer you're using, if it's the same one every time, if you have multiple devices that you're going to be using, you'll just have to click on that link on each device. But once you do that, you'll be able to come right to our resiconference.com website, and we have this big Resi June partnering login, and that will make it you automatically logged in. So you don't have to remember another password or a username or anything. You're just going to be logged in. And you'll see here that I'm logged in. It's right here on the right-hand side. And right now I'm at our home screen. And Greg, I'm going to have you monitor the Q&A just to make sure, just because if I'm not going to be able
Okay, I'll keep an eye on it.
Okay, thank you. So this is the main page or the home screen of our RESI partnering. Hopefully it looks a little bit familiar. I hope some of you have already gone in here and started poking around a little bit, but I'm going to go through number one, how to set up your account and your profile, and just make sure you're prepared. And then also how the partnering platform also matches you up with really the technology investors who meet your technology, your phase of development, and your indication. Again, similar to our investor platform that Greg just showed. So again, here's the home screen. It's a very quick snapshot. If you have any meetings that are awaiting your response, if you have any outgoing meetings awaiting responses, which hopefully you'll have lots of those. Any meetings that have been confirmed will be here, and any new messages. So there is a messaging feature within the partnering platform. We do have some resources on this page too, Partnering 101. We do have a video tutorial that's very similar to what I'm going to go through today. And then this is just a quick snapshot of like bullet points of what I'm going to go over right now. And the first one is updating your profile. So on the top bar here, this black bar, you'll see that we're at the home screen. But right now, the first thing you should go to is the account tab, which is at the far right. So when you go to the account tab, you'll see that you'll see your edit, and it'll say your company. Mine says Life Science Nation, and I have lots of people that are here with me because we are the ones putting on the conference. So we have all of my my colleagues here, but it should say edit your company, and then edit your name, and then your colleague's name who's joining you. The first thing is you want to edit your company. So your organization name, you can edit that. It should be correct. However, if you want to put your country name in there, and you can also put in a business profile and your web address. Something that doesn't show up on mine because of we're the organizers is that you have the capability to upload your executive summary and your pitch deck in PDF, which is definitely recommended. So then investors, when you're booking meetings with them, instead of you having to like send them any information, you'll have the information right built into the system, so you don't have to do any attaching or separate emailing. Then you want to go through all of these sectors. So you want to put in if you're a therapeutics company, or if you're a diagnostics company, or health, digital health, or a device company. Go through here, select this. If you have a specific sector that you're focused on, so for example, peptides, proteins, small molecules, selecting these subsectors, and then also, again, subsectors based off of the technology. Biotech, medtech, diagnostics. Then going through your indication. So having your lead indication, or if you have 2 indications that you're focused on, selecting them here. This allows investors who are also, in attendance looking for your technology, your type of technology, they can find you. And then also putting in your phase of development here. Once you're done completing your account, your company information, make sure to hit save on the bottom. And then one other thing that I would recommend is adding a logo. Adding a logo just, again, gives it a personal touch. It gives a little bit more information to the investor that you're going to be meeting with, and just showing them that you have a logo, just get a feel for your brand. After you update your account, the next step is to edit your name. So I went to edit Ashley. And here it's a little bit quicker if you want to update your job title, put an alternate email, or put in a phone number. You can add it here. And then you can also add a quick bio. And again, just to add to the personal touch, I mean, all of your meetings that you're going to be having are going to be video meetings. So again, it's just a nice touch to have a photo of yourself, like a headshot here. So it's just a separate tab next to edit profile. So you can add that there. Something to note that if you have any issues at all within the partnering platform, please reach out to us. We recommend reaching out to resi@lifesciencenation.com, which I will follow up with everyone via email with that information as well. That if you need help with anything when you're setting up your profile, like, just please reach out to us. Okay, so once you have your account, your company, and yourself all updated, the next thing is you want to go to the schedule tab, which is right next to account. So when you get onto your schedule, it might look, if you haven't been logged in yet, you're going to show up as all available. And you can see that we start the conference at 12:30 a.m. So because it's global, because everyone's calling in from their homes, we have partnering open for 24 hours a day. So really, through the course of June 8th through 10th, we'll start seeing the meetings light up from Asia, and then Europe, and then East Coast, West Coast. So you'll definitely want to book your schedule based off of your time zone and based off of when you have your own personal meetings out of RESI. So just making sure that you go through here and select unavailable when you're going to be sleeping, and also if you have any other meetings. So if you want to start your meeting, say at like 8 o'clock, just have all of your schedule kind of selected here. We do have live panels. Everyone on this call, you guys have access to the full event. So we will have different investor panels throughout the 3 days. So we highly recommend checking those out, and you can automatically just book them on your schedule. You'll see that I have this one already added for the 8th at 10. So in order to add it, you just click on whichever investor panel. It'll have like a description so you can see some additional information. And then if you scroll down at the bottom, you'll be able to add it to your schedule here. So I can remove it from my schedule because I already have it on my schedule. So just making sure to go through here and making yourself unavailable. And also each day is a different tab at the top. So you'll want to make sure that you do the same thing per day. So we have this Angels Investors panel. the same thing here, and I can add to my schedule. So I'll do that. And then once I go back to my schedule on the 9th, it's going to show up that I have it there. All right. So now once you have your schedule blocked off, you have your account set up, now you're like, okay, I want to actually request and book some meetings with investors. So that's the next step. So next to the home screen, we have the search section. So the search section allows you to search across all the attendees that are in partnering and attending RESI. And right here on the left-hand side, you have the capability to filter. And this is really where the matching comes in, where we want to match you, investors to you that are a good fit for your technology, your indication, and your stage of development. So right now we have 402 companies. So you'll see that it's as organization. So it always defaults to the organization. You can flip it at any point to attendees. But just in terms of how to do your searching, we recommend to do it by organization. And the first thing that we want to do is we're looking for investors. So we're going to select investor. And you'll see that we have 234 investment firms currently registered. Those 10 types of investors, so those will be listed here. We're tracking all of them just the same as our investor database. We recommend to keep this open because you just never know what investors are going to be interested in your stage of development, your technology, and your indication. So for main sector, this is where you're going to fill out if you're like focused on drugs, devices, diagnostics, digital health. Just to kind of go into the similar realm that Greg did. So he searched for diagnostics. And you'll see that every time you select a different section, it's going to keep filtering down based off of those results. So I selected diagnostics. And again, I'll just select the same thing. So we'll do infectious diseases. And then for phase of development, there are 2 different sections. For biotech, this is the one that you would use if you're a therapeutics company. In this medtech diagnostics phase of development, and I'll use clinical. So after I did those few little sections, filters, diagnostics, infectious disease, clinical, it came up with 115 investment firms who are attending RESI June that now you can go through and really look at their profiles to see if they're a good fit. So using this little arrow right here on the left-hand side, you can see that their business profile is going to have information about, first off, who they are, where they're located. It's also going to show what they're most interested in, what they typically, their allocation size, so 2 million to 5 million for 3M. And then it's also going to show where they're seeking their new investment opportunities. So you'll see that they're looking for opportunities across the globe with a focus on the US, Europe, Brazil, Singapore, and China. So you guys, when you fill out your accounts, you select all of the check boxes, like if you're a therapeutics company, what indication you're in, and what stage of development. So with every investor profile that you find in the partnering platform, they'll have a full profile of this paragraph. So their business profile, the type of investor they are, what sector they're interested in investing in, the indication, and their phase of development, and what phase that they're most interested in investing in as well. This is why I had Greg do a demo of the investor database, because the reason why all 115 plus, all 350 plus really of all of the investors that we have within RESI partnering is because we have the back-end database, our investor database. So we're really able to have all the information readily available for you guys to be able to really filter down and match based off of your technology. technology. Because we have that information in the back end, we're able to upload the information here and have it available. So once you pick out your investors that you're really wanting to target, honestly, it's going to be most of these, depending on, you know, most of these 115, if this is your, like, whenever you're filtering. And at that point, so here you'll see that 3M has 2 attendees attending RESI in June. So you'll see that this book meeting button here is in blue. So that's the first thing. You're going to want to book a meeting with all of these investors. And you'll see here that you'll be able to add or remove a colleague. So if you have someone joining you, which I believe we recommended that all of you guys have a second person in attendance with you. It's included in the program. So select if you want to have the other person join you, which is recommended to be able to take notes within the meeting, have someone kind of have that dialogue with the investor, and then have another person be able to take some notes, some follow-up. So right here, you're able to put in an optional message, which is really should be required. It's very important to put in some information about who you are, your technology, where you're at, and what you're looking for. So I will send this partnering message after the call so you guys can use this as kind of a guide when you're coming up with your messaging. So saying who you are, explaining your product, the unmet need, any competition, any landmarks or achievements that you have, and any current financing needs and what it will be used for. So this is a really good example of what to use when you're reaching out and like trying to book meetings with these investors. And again, I'll send this to you guys, to everyone after the call. So once you have your message in there, you select your colleague. The next thing is you select this yes button. So are you sure you wish to request this meeting? You select yes. You're both going to get an email. So you'll get an email every time you request a meeting. And then the person that you're requesting a meeting will also be identified via email that someone is requesting a meeting with them. From there, if the investor accepts the meeting, you know, they take a look at your information. You're like, okay, so what happens now? You know, I didn't have any time, you know, I didn't put any time that I'm available. Well, that's what makes the scheduling, booking your schedule, blocking your schedule based off of when you're going to be available was important, because the system will take the next available time that both you and the person you're booking the meeting with are available, and it will book a meeting based off of that. So I am available at 11:30, and if the person I just tried to book a meeting with was also available at 11:30, the meeting would be scheduled at that time. And you do get notified via email, so you'll be notified via email whenever something is either accepted. Again, when you request the meeting, you get notified. Any questions or comments about that? Don't think anyone has put anything in. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the search screen because Dennis kind of mentioned this earlier in his presentation about following up. So just going through, and I'll just do another quick diagnostics. I'll just select diagnostics for now. So you have 115, that was the number that it was before. You have 115 people that you want to book meetings with. And again, all of these investors are getting lots of requests from all different types of companies. So you want to make sure that you're standing out in the crowd, getting across who you are, and really getting that meeting booked. So we have a 4-step like process or method to ensure that people get the most meetings. So just maybe scheduling, trying to book that one meeting with all of that information is good. But we found the most successful people really do this 4-step method, and they get upwards of 15, 20, 30 meetings. And, you know, doing your due diligence, going in here, really taking a look at the investors, and taking the time to really go through and do the follow-up is really important. And that's also one of the reasons why we open partnering so early. So the event is June 8th through 10th. We open partnering this week, really like 3 weeks early. So you have the time to get in here and also get your follow-ups in over the next couple of weeks. In addition to that, we're also still registering investors. So something to always note that you have the capability to do is that right here, it's order alphabetically. And this is the default, so it'll order alphabetically every time you sign in. But if you do your filtering each time, and you go to order, you can select order by date approved. So that way you're getting any new investors that you may have missed on your first initial outreach this week. So that 4-step method, to go back to that. So your 4-step method, you know, booking that meeting always is going to be your first action, is to book that meeting and put your partnering message in there. You can send a message. So this is where the follow-ups come in. So by following up and talking about your technology, talking more about your technology and, you know, what it is in your product, then sending us another second message in a couple of days, and talking about your management team, really talking about the story of, like, you know, kind of what Dennis was talking about, going through how it came to be. And then doing another 4th message point and going through the market need, why it's so important that this technology is needed. So again, going through these different follow-ups is just going to improve those chances in getting these meetings booked. And when you're into the system, when you're in here booking meetings, when you've booked meetings or requested a meeting, the book meeting button will be grayed out. And then it'll also have like a little green line here, and it'll say like, you've requested this meeting. Something else to note is that all of you guys have premier access to RESI partnering. So you'll see that every single profile has this premier mandate option. When you click on this button, and I think I have to log in, so bear with me. So when you log in, so when you search for any investor and you'll see this premier mandate, you can click on this and it will bring you to their full profile. So let me go to 3M here. Okay. So you'll see here that not only do we have their allocation information listed, but we also have some more detailed information about the investor. So it'll have their full mandate. So that's what Premier Access is. So you'll get some additional information about their subsectors and sectors of interest. So for example, this firm focuses on companies developing wound care coatings, diagnostic devices, so some additional information there. And then also you'll have their company and management team requirements. So some investors do have requirements on your management team. So if there's any of that information on any of these investors, you'll have that information right here. And then most importantly, you will have their direct contact details of the investors, the people who are attending from those firms at the bottom here. So you'll have access to be able to follow up. Maybe you guys weren't able to get a meeting booked during RESI, but if you know they're a really great fit for your technology, your stage of development, and what you have going on, then following up with them after RESI and saying, hey, we didn't get to connect at RESI, but I think that we have a really great product that you'd be interested in, and try to schedule a meeting that way. And then to go back to the standard RESI partnering here. Just a couple of other things. We didn't go through sessions or messages. For sessions, you'll be able to see all of our sessions that we have over the course of the 8th, 9th, and 10th if you wanted to join any of them. And then also the messaging, you're able to message investors. And again, you'll go here if you've sent those follow-up messages and you've gotten some messages back, you can see them there. Greg, have I missed anything? I think I've gone over everything that I can think of, but I want to make sure that there's no questions or anything.
I think you covered everything. There haven't been any questions. So I think it was pretty clear.
Great. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining. I will be following up with you after this call. Next week, the branding and messaging webinar will be going through more of the marketing materials that Dennis kind of talked about when he was going through the debunking the myths of fundraising. So next week, we'll go over really the branding and messaging part, really your story, what is included, what you should include, sort of our branding and messaging boot camp workshop that we do. And then we'll also do a partnering kind of check-in, and we can do that a little bit more. We can have that be more interactive and just have any questions that you guys have as you go through. But in the meantime, just let me know if you guys have any questions. Everyone has my email. Feel free to reach out to myself or that resi@lifesciencenation.com email. And yeah, I'll follow up with you guys after. Thank you to Greg and Dennis for your help today.
No problem.
All right, have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.